What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Board Games Are For Everybody. Today, we are going to be taking a look at Paku Paku. This is a tiny little game. Box is pretty small, made by Ravensburger. We actually have a lot of Ravensburger games. This is a quick dexterity game. Takes about 10 minutes, according to the front of the box. You can play 2 to 8 players. It's a pretty fun time. It is a little micro game here. The box is pretty small, but we're just going to grab our pieces out here and drop them all over the floor as usual. As usual, where did that piece go? It's right under my foot. Okay, got all our pieces here. We got some tokens stuck inside of our dishes here. Just gonna very slowly set all this stuff up here. So the object of this game is not to throw everything on the floor. Granted, it is something that is likely to happen based on how the game works. The object of the game is to end up with the fewest amount of points by the end of the game. Something that I have found out a lot of games seem to be doing lately is that you want the least amount of points, everything taking tips from the golf approach, apparently, in order to be the winner once you finish. Now, if you finish, when you finish, I should say, is determined by you, I suppose. If you want to play to a certain amount of points, that's okay. I think the instructions say that the first person to get to either 5 or 10 points is when the game ends. Can I reach that plate? I can, right under my foot. The first person to get to 5 or 10 points is when the game is supposed to end. We're just going to grab our little piece in the middle here. This is the only part that we need, is this guy right here. So the object of the game is to end up with the least amount of points. So how do we do that? How do you end up with points in the game in the first place? How does that work? Well, the way the game works is that we have our dish in the middle here, our little table tray, and depending on how many people you're playing with, we will just play with 2 people. Do I have anything here that can represent people? Not close to me. We'll just use some tokens here to kind of represent each person. So we have 2 people, player 1, player 2. And at the beginning of the game, each person is given an equal amount of dice, and then the last die goes to whoever. They just have to be spread out equally. Well, as equal as you can, I should say, at the beginning of the game. And then from that point on, each player simultaneously rolls their dice, and they continue rolling. This 1 and 2 doesn't really mean anything right now. This isn't a huge deal. But anytime that you roll a bear symbol, you give any die that has a bear with it to your opponent. And then you continue to roll your things. No one got anything there. So we got 1 bear here, which would go back to the other player, but they also got 2 dish dice. Now, every time you gain a dish die, you have to stack 1 piece of plateware, kitchenware, whatever the correct term is. It's not silverware, obviously that's cutlery. You need to place one of your dishes onto the table as if you had just eaten from the dishes. And then you continue rolling again. Now, this continues on until someone would knock over the table from going back and forth. So let's say that, here we go, 2 here, 1 here. So we'd have to do like a stack right there. Say that I knocked that over and it was this person here. So the person who knocked it over would roll all of their dice, and they ended up with 3 on the die that they have. So they would take a 3 token and add it to their pile to show that that's how much they have. Now, Once the stack is knocked over, you can either completely clear the table, which is typically what we do. We'll just completely clear the table. Or if you want to, you could always leave any dishes that didn't fall over on the stack to be stacked up upon again. So if we just continue the round here, got that there, but also got one dish. So player 2 would have to do this. Got one here, also one dish. Both of them got a dish. So you can get this to go pretty high. It's surprising how high you can actually get it before it moves over. So here's a good example here. The player number 2 has just rolled 2 panda die, which gives all dice to player 1. Now, because player 1 has every single die, they need to roll the die, and they will gain as many tokens as are rolled on the dice. In this case, 2 tokens. So they would add 2 tokens to their pile. Now, if we were just playing up to 5 points, I do think it's 10 points though. The game would be over. Obviously, we have the most points. We would lose because we got there first, and it's only a 2-player game. Once you do the roll for having all the die, you would split the dice up once again, and you would continue on. Now, you would want to do this until one player either gets out, however you want to determine that, whether it be by getting to a certain amount of points, whether it be getting all the points. Typically when we play, we just go through all the points, and then whoever has the least amount of points wins at the end, because they manage to not mess up the most. So while people are stacking dishes, the other person can still roll their die. So say I'm trying to stack dishes here. Player 2 is still rolling their die, and they happen to get a panda while I'm still stacking dishes. And I now have all of the dice on my side again, so we would have to roll. We only end up with 2. We would take 2, putting us at 7. And then the dice would be redistributed. Now, you would do this until, like I said, you either play until all the tokens are gone, or you just agree on a certain amount of points, and the first person to that amount of points ends up being the loser. But that's pretty much it for Paku Paku. It's a pretty self-explanatory game. It's very, very easy to learn, very easy to get into. Once you kind of get a rhythm going for it, it's really interesting to see how high the tower can get, and also just how quick the dice can rotate around. Now, playing with 2 players, obviously getting all those pandas is going to go pretty quick, especially if we knock the tower over, especially if the other person has to build dishes while the rolling is going on. This person just got all of them, but we got 1 there. Especially with all the dish building having to go on. So if you're still building up the tower while you're rolling, you're definitely going to have to do it quick. So you really have to balance trying to build quickly so you don't end up with more points in your pile versus rolling your dice. Now with 2 people, like I was saying, this goes pretty quick. You get like 6. I think the most we've played it with is 4 people, but if you get like 4 or 5 people, the dice going around the entire board, everyone trying to build in the pile, it can get really chaotic. It's a really fun time, and especially with those higher numbers, that's where those number limits I think would really come in handy when it comes to the points and ending the game. But as just a 2-player game, even a 3-player game, I'd say just play until the pile runs out, and then just count up after that. But yeah, that's Paku Paku. Very, very easy game to learn. Very small game. Doesn't take too much to store it. And it's pretty fun. Just a fun little dexterity game. I think anyone who likes dexterity games should give it a try. I think it's a good piece of fun. Anyone who likes a really chaotic and chaos-induced kind of fast-paced kind of go as quick as you can kind of game, I think would really enjoy it. It's great as a kid's game. It's great as an adult game, as a party game. The theme is obviously pretty good. You know, eating at a restaurant, stacking up all your dishes. It's a pretty fun time. But that is it for Paku Paku. We're gonna wrap it up on this freeform review, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. If you've played Paku Paku, let me know down in the comments below what you thought of it, or if you are interested in it, let me know why you're interested, what about it makes you want to give it a shot. But until next time, just remember that board games are for everybody, and until then, peace.